Can you see me? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you and see you. What about me? Everything
Wonderful.
okay?
Everything's brilliant. Tell us about yourself. Give us a little bit of context into you, and we'll jump straight into the visa situation.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Eloise. I'm a paralegal at Bay Immigration Law. We're a law firm based out of, well, the Bay Area, so Palo Alto, but we also have offices around the US and in Europe. But I'm based in London, as you can probably hear. So yeah.
We love it. We do. We of course love the UK talent. We love the American talent as well. Could you explain to us what is happening with this H1B visa? What has the American government done that has caused such an uproar? And how is it affecting everything on your end?
Yeah, so basically why we're here is on Friday, so last Friday, President Trump announced this new change, a new fee for this visa called H1B. And the fee is £100,000. And usually this fee is around 1,700 to like 4,500. So it's quite the jump. So basically a H1B allows US employers, and that's quite important, to sponsor skilled workers to fill like basically critical roles that they cannot otherwise fill. And again, we'll discuss those 2 points later. And this visa is usually for about 3 years to up to 6 years if you extend. So it's not really a very long one. And also there's already some requirements there. Sorry. So you can imagine why there's been some uproar over this £100,000 new fee. But I can go into what it's designed for, basically, and
Can
everything
you
like
can
that.
you break it down to us on a really simple level? I think what on
Yeah.
our side of the world, we don't quite understand the impact of what this is going to do across the US market. So like simply, like if you were to just explain it to a child, what do they use it for? Who is typically using it? And most importantly, I think as you've mentioned, why?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's
So
all those late
basically,
nights. You're
yeah,
putting out
it is.
fires last night, right?
It is. So yeah, so basically, generally, this change, what Trump's trying to do, it's a move to designed to encourage companies to hire more American workers. Basically, Trump's been promising this, not necessarily this fee, but a restriction on H1B since his first term. I think it's been a general promise that he's been making. So in simple terms, like I'll go into what H1B is. So who it really impacts US employer wise is universities, research institutions, hospitals, and the tech industry. So obviously these are areas that often require very specialist, niche, like qualified people that it's not necessarily that they'll be in the US, or if they are in the US, they might be hired by someone else. There just needs to be more of these people, like more specialist doctors, for example. So this is why the H1B was created by previous administrations, to try and get in many of these skilled people. So this is why in the tech sector, you have a lot of Indian and Chinese nationals who have started some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley. So it's because of this H1B. So I noticed recently, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Musk actually said that he came to the US on a H1B. So it kind of shows you the kind of person that is using this visa. So in terms of why Trump has wanted to put a limit on it. So every single year, the H1B applicants hit this maximum limit. And every year there's a thing called the H1B lottery, where because it's already hit its limit, these people who are already specialists have to kind of go into this random selection process to try and hope that they'll get a H1B granted to them. And this happens every single year. In terms of why I think he's concerned, it's because a lot of these jobs that these people are getting are very high paid. So I think a lot of the American public is looking at this and saying, why are you sending it out to someone else? Why not hire within the US? And we'll get into why that might be an issue later.
Why is that an issue? Let's hit the nail on the head now.
Yeah.
Like, hiring Americans from America is obviously sort of part of this government's agenda
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
US. And like, rightfully so, they're taking a line and they're trying to stay to it, right? It doesn't mean, and it does mean that there are going to be impacts down the road, and there's a, downhill, downstream is probably going to, mess some things up potentially. What is the impact on the people in America right now? Is it kind of a gray area still, but as this law has sort of just been pushed into place, or are they going to have to, sort of move it through the courts?
To an extent. So we're unsure if there will be a court challenging this. I think so far courts have been generally quite lenient with Trump. So we'll see. It's quite a gray area there. But in terms of the positives for the US, I mean, there's definitely potentially someone might get a job that someone else might not have. Some H1-B worker will have gotten. But I think what I'll do to kind of make it more clear is I'll give you an example of like a fake client. And
Please, let's do
take
it.
you through that. Yeah. So at the moment, a lot of people are saying, well, this is great because it means that these companies that are being lazy, just taking someone from abroad, they're just going to have to look harder and do better and find a US worker. And it'll be more expensive for them. And they'll have to pay 100K if they do want to, take some person who's cheaper from abroad. And I think that's the general discussion. And I saw a few news networks actually mentioning that in the US, saying, oh, now they can't, now maybe Trump can have iPhone factories in like California. And this is not these kind of workers. Obviously, there's one skilled set of workers, which are like people who can construct an iPhone, like plumbers.
Do they come on a different visa in the H1-B?
This would not go under H1-B. So H1-B, you have to have quite a high standard. You have to have at least a bachelor's degree. And in my experience, most of these people have a lot higher than a bachelor's degree. Right. And not only that, they're extremely specialist in their field.
And so actually do they have to make an argument when they bring these individuals into the country that there is no one else in the US that can do this job? Is it that type of visa?
Yeah. So I'll go through the example of like a fictitious client of mine, but it's very similar to some. So imagine I have a US private dermatologist clinic, and I'm in New York, and I want to bring in this new technology that everyone's talking about. And I look and I put out advertisements for this role. No one's picking up on it because it's this new tech. And I look down and there is a guy in Florida who's at some other clinic, but he doesn't want to move because he loves Florida and he's living in Florida and his family's there. And I've looked elsewhere and I've put out stuff everywhere. However, I know, because I'm also a specialist in this field, I know that there's this lady in Singapore. She's a specialist. Everyone loves her. And, I could bring her over. I could ask her. So imagine I've already put out loads of advertisements for this job. So I go ask her, hey, would you be interested? And she says, yes, I'd be interested. Now, what we need to do as a company is go out to the US Immigration Authority and prove that I have I'm jumping the gun. Now I need to get this Singaporean doctor to enter the H1-B lottery. So this happens once a year. So they'll enter, they'll hope to get it. And unfortunately, she doesn't get it this year. So then we're like, okay, I'm another year of not having this competitive edge at my private clinic. And, my clients keep coming to me, asking me, hey, when are we getting this treatment? And I'm like, wait up, guys, I can't do it right now. And, they're just going to go to Singapore, or they're going to maybe go down to Florida. But in these scenarios, the guy in Florida is booked out. So in reality, this money for this treatment is going to leave the United States and go to this lady's clinic in Singapore. So if you're imagining that's another year, the next year, imagine she wins the lottery and she gets it. So now she can't just come to the US, even though I'm a US employer. I want her over here, and it will really help my company, and it will also help US citizens who want this service. I can't do that yet. What I have to do is put out there that to the USCIS that I have shown effort to advertise this job, that no one else could do this job. And I need to prove, to the extent of interviewing people who are similar, I need to show that it's in major advertising points. Basically, it needs to have proper reach over the US. And I just need to prove that no one else can do this. So this is already the standard, that literally no one in the US could take this job. So then I pay the fees and I can finally get this lady from Singapore over into my clinic. And even then, after all of this, she can only stay for 3 years. And then if I want, and we can try to, we can extend to 6 years. That's the current environment. Now you can see who that is hurting. In reality, this is not hurting a
Meta, a Google, a
yeah.
Microsoft, a Oracle.
I mean, it's also hurting them, but there's these other companies and also people. There's multiple people in this, journey that are US citizens or US companies that this is already difficult for. These H1-B visas, is what I'm trying to get at, they're not taking in, foreign citizens over nationals, US nationals, because it's cheaper or because it's easier.
But
It's
that's the rhetoric
really
the
not.
media will push, because it's the
Yeah,
easy rhetoric to
and
have. The reality of the situation is it's not that.
but I think it's not even rhetoric. I think it's just deep confusion, because a lot of news sources which are more pro-Democrat are saying this as well. I think it's just a confusion with how the process works. So now if you imagine you're putting 100K onto my clinic, I'm thinking, I would get a lot of customers now, but then there was also the scare over the weekend that it would be every year. And a bunch of
100,000 every year, not just a one-time payment.
Yes, yeah. So
Wow.
they clarified that it wouldn't be every year. We've been having little updates through lots of different channels. I think I mentioned to you that we've even got some through Twitter. So yeah,
It's just moving at the speed of like whatever that government puts out, whatever the American government puts
it's been a
out.
hectic time.
Is this, can I ask, is this quite normal of the US government when you're almost in a reactionary position when they make these law changes at the moment?
I think it really depends on the type of law. With immigration law, it's usually slightly slower, but I think the Trump administration definitely moves quickly. So, because usually we'd probably see this change come through Congress, which is part of, some people are saying that this should be challenged by court because it should have gone through Congress. But, so that's why it would usually be slightly slower. But it's just a surprise because this 100K is probably targeted towards the bigger companies, like how you mentioned, it's the Meta, Google, etc., because they are the biggest employers of H1B. It's like Amazon is the highest, and then Microsoft, Facebook, Meta.
Can I ask, to change tack slightly? The
it.
rest of the world is obviously going to have this potential of talent to attract to their
Yeah,
countries. What do you
yeah,
see as the impact it's going to cause the UK as an example, or Europe as an example? Because Starmer,
yeah,
our prime minister, has obviously come out and said they're going to reduce the cost of the talent visa to enter into the country, and so attracting a lot more of that talent. And
yeah.
there is an argument to be made that the Valley was built on top of the H1-B visa. What's the take? What's your sentiment?
Yeah, yeah. So adding to what you just said, I think obviously Starmer saw this as an opportunity, and a lot of other countries will as well. It's like a moment to compete with the US for this talent, there's been talk of like zero visa fees for specialist talent for the UK. I think it was like scientists, academics, and like tech industry pros. So that's obviously going to be attractive. But also something with H1B is that a lot of students would try and apply for the H1B after their studies in the US. So this means that a lot of people were choosing to go to the US for university because the H1B basically has a smaller cap if you're a student. So it was quite nice. You could do your master's or your undergrad, your master's at a US university. You pay all those fees, and then you have a chance to go into a smaller pool of H1B visa applicants. So it gave like an opportunity for a lot of these very intelligent individuals. So now they might choose to go to Oxford or Cambridge instead. They might choose to go to like HKU or Singapore or Canada, because there's a better. So it basically is. It might cause a lack of talent to go into the US, where I feel like if you look at the stats, they've been relying on for their major companies, especially in Silicon Valley, for a very long time. Like that, they've needed.
They've been able to attract talent in. They've had a process that's made it easy, or at least quote unquote almost seamless. And now putting in these restrictions means that there is a bit of a force, there's a bit of friction in that, and people might look elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it could mean that people will try and pay for this 100K fee. In terms of, when I say people, I mean the companies. But in reality, it's potentially just too large for a lot of, like, for example, if for my example, dermatologist, it wouldn't really happen. But for bigger companies that really care, like the Metas, maybe they will. But we're yet to see, because we're early days. And this will.
What happens if it's rolled back through Congress? What happens on your end? Does that mean that you can just open the floodgates again and you can start processing applications? Or will it mean that you have to sort of shift gears and reassess how you assess applications moving forward?
Yeah. So we've definitely reassessed what we're doing generally. Basically, this new process starts next year. So it's basically early next year that H1B.
They make it seem like it happens instantly, like it's happening tomorrow, doesn't it?
Yeah. But there was a lot of scare over the weekend, and now a lot of the companies, like major, like Meta example, have told their H1B visa applicants, or not applicants, sorry, people who have H1Bs, to come back to the US or just to not travel at all. And we've also had to say this to a lot of our clients. And that's quite a unique situation where you have people who already have gone through this long process and they're specialists, and we're telling them, stay put. Like, you can't really travel right now.
So, like, don't leave the country. Like, stay in the country.
Stay in the country.
How interesting.
So hopefully it will become more clear. I think it definitely will as we go along. I think there was a lot of panic because everything was kind of coming through in slightly unclear terms. Like the wording wasn't. So, for example, the wording didn't explicitly state if someone had renewed their H1B. Remember how I was saying this dermatologist could stay for 3 years or 6 years. It didn't say if the people who were renewing the new H1B, if they had to pay for the 100K, because we have people currently who have already been given a H1B and renewing it. So there's this uncertainty. There's also uncertainties on whether, if you're out of the country, it's called an inactive status. Even if you have a H1B currently, if they were going to be impacted when they flew back into the United States, from holiday or whatever. So it's definitely a very turbulent time, but
and so overall, we don't actually know the impact yet. It's only when it comes into effect where we really understand the impact, and then the long tail of whatever it is that's happened.
Yeah, like I think a lot of this conversation is what ifs. Like, what if students now don't go to the US? What if now US companies can't?
You must be scenario planning behind the scenes like madmen.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
But the Bay is still the place to be for talent or tech talent in the US right now, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this might just move companies to say, okay, let's just have a lot of online workers in India, for example, because India is the highest applicant holder for H1Bs. And they're already, a lot of companies are already doing this. So it doesn't necessarily take away the work and give it to an American citizen. It might just mean that they just keep their worker in India or in China instead of just bringing them over, which would have been easier. But it's just another option. So there's lots of what ifs there, and it just might mean that we get pushed more down into the work from home
Well,
scenario.
let's hope not. We do like people. We like getting out into the world, and I think that working from an office or being around it is the only way innovation gets done.
Yeah, exactly.
Eloise, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for the
Thank
time.
you.
We're looking forward to you chiming in again, giving us the boots on the ground take of what's happening.
Perfect. Thank you so much.